I was the fifth bred of Satan, and my power that I ran with was, my element was fire, and you couldn't get any higher than what I was. I could move things without touching them, and I could make people stand away from me and command the demons to go get people and make them get pushed away. I could protect myself in that sort of way, and I really liked the power.
You were taught concerning the things of the dark side of the supernatural at a very young age. Could you share some of that with us?
I was really involved with the Satanic Church every day. The high priest would come and get me, and they would take me to the church, and they would violate me, but we'd have communion every day, and that consisted of blood and urine and semen and a black widow, and that was, an everyday part of my life.
You have explained to us that there was human sacrifice that went on inside of the Satanic Church and inside of Satanic ritual. Can you tell us how this was done?
How do they murder people? All the children's posters that you see that are missing, they're pretty much dead. They have underground caverns in the mountains, and they keep the children and the kids and the women and men there. And then at a certain time in mid-September, October, they take them out, and they're so... Remember when I told you I could make people get away from me? Like, they'd make the people so numb with curses and stuff, and they'd also drug them up, and they'd take a sacrificial knife and they'd start from the chest and move all the way down to your abdomen.
On this altar is one of a number of daggers which we may use in our rituals. This one happens to belong to the commanding general of the most elite unit of Germany's infamous SS, which was concerned with black magic and occultism research in general. Anything that it could find that had to do with the origins of the human race, destiny of humanity.
When I was 4 years old, I was raped and molested by a high priest, and I knew nothing else of all that stuff, and I was just brainwashed with the Satanism and knowing that Satan was God and God was not real. Satan was God for me. And I thought, I was so numb to it, really.
A self-described Satanist awaiting trial for murder in North Carolina is dead after an apparent suicide in prison. 36-year-old Pazuzu Algarad was found unresponsive in his cell in Raleigh early Wednesday morning, October 28th. The New York Daily News reports the heavily tattooed inmate had a wound to his arm. Algarad was scheduled to appear in court Thursday on first-degree murder charges. Skeletal remains were found a year ago buried behind his home in Clemens, and the victims, men ages 36 and 37, are believed to have been killed by Algarad and his girlfriend in 2009. She is awaiting a separate trial. Algarad changed his name from John Lawson in 2012, and Pazuzu was the name used for a demon in the movie The Exorcist. The inmate said he practiced a religion that involved the monthly sacrifice of a small animal. From Newsbeat Social's New York Bureau in Manhattan, I'm David Folk Thomas.
Now, you had mentioned to me that these shootings that occur, that
absolutely,
that they're connected with. First of all, what is a program multiple?
Sure. We've all heard now on television, multiple personality disorder. They now call it dissociative identity disorder, DID. So that's well known among psychologists, the DSM-3, the diagnostic manuals. That's really well known. People hear more about multiple personalities. So if you think in terms of your personality, like you and I being one person, I think in terms of, well, I eat chicken or well, I eat hamburger. That's a decision, but it's all just me.
Okay.
When you have a multiple through trauma, it's trauma-based, they split human personality into sub-personalities, and they create them.
Who is they?
Well, I would say, again, deeper than the deep state, what I would call the real Luciferian.
Okay.
People that are really, they know what they're doing. They're in league with the dark side, Satan.
Okay.
They know what they're doing. They know what the agenda is. So this is they don't do it just for, fun and have an orgy and do blood, though some of them do.
Right.
This is all by design to create, and they're fostering, they're the reason for the end of the age.
Okay.
They're the reasons behind all of this.
Okay.
George White worked with the Truth Drug Committee here at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in the nation's capital. They experimented with mescaline, scopolamine, and marijuana on unwitting victims. The committee soon learned there was no easy panacea, no truth drug at this stage. But White and later colleagues would not stop trying. The goal remained the same. As this 1952 CIA memo says, the aim is controlling an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will, and even against such fundamental laws of nature as self-preservation. John Gittinger, recently retired chief psychologist for the CIA. This is the first time Gittinger has been interviewed publicly.
We could disable a whole city by putting a very small amount on a water supply. After all of these years of us, those of us who are involved in looking for this secret drug, this was the only thing that began to look for the first time like it might be something like that.
The CIA's interest in LSD was intense. The worry was that the Russians would get hold of it. A decision was made at the highest levels of the CIA to do testing on unwitting Americans. As one CIA document says, such testing would be operationally realistic. A former CIA official who worked on these programs describes for the first time how the decision was made. He did not wish to be filmed or recorded. Thus his remarks are read by someone else.
I think every last one of us felt sorry to attempt this kind of thing. We knew we were crossing the line. Every decent kid knows he shouldn't steal, but he does it sometimes. We knew damn well we didn't want anyone else to know what we were doing.
The decision was made to do testing on unwitting victims. It was decided they should be on the fringes of society because they were most vulnerable.
It was the borderline underworld, prostitutes, drug addicts, and other small-timers who would be powerless to seek any kind of revenge in case they found out.
I give the CIA a total credit for sponsoring and initiating the entire consciousness movement, counterculture events of the 1960s.
Dr. Timothy Leary, the 1960s Johnny Appleseed of LSD.
The CIA funded and supported and encouraged hundreds of young psychiatrists to experiment with this drug. The fallout from that was that the young psychologists began taking it themselves, discovering that it was an intelligence-enhancing, consciousness-raising experience.
Well, I've been an admirer of Aleister Crowley. I think that I'm carrying on much of the work that he started over 100 years ago, and I think the 60s themselves. You know, Crowley said, "Do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law."
Talking to Dr. Aquino and his wife, you are a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army.
Correct.
Now, and how does the Army feel about you being head of the Temple of Set?
The Army has known about my religion for the entire span of my Army career, which began in 1968. And there was a reasonable amount of curiosity, as there has been all the way along, with what exactly is this strange and unusual thing. And I've talked about it in much the same way that I've talked here today on your show about it. And other than that, the Army has paid very little attention to it.
Ich meine, deine leibliche Mutter, die dich dahin gebracht hat? Ja. War sie auch dabei, oder?
Nein, sie war nicht dabei, wenn es passierte.
Sie hat dich hingebracht und ist dann einfach gegangen? Ja, oder wenn es in dem Haus von dem Vergewaltiger passierte, wo es einen Fernseher gab, dann hat sie sich diese Serie Les Feux de l'amour angeschaut oder einen Kaffee getrunken oder solche Dinge.
Er kennt dieses Haus wieder, in Nonancourt bei Paris. Hier sollen sein Vater und die anderen Männer zahlreiche Kinder über die Garage eingeschleust haben.
Und was mich an seinen Worten besonders schockierte, der Kleine sagte, Papa hat sich verkleidet, aber ich habe sofort seine Stimme erkannt. Und Robert sprach auch von Tieropfern, aber auch von Kindern. Er hat sehr viele Dinge mimisch dargestellt. Er hat gesagt, es wurden Kinder geopfert? Er hat nicht die Worte Kinder geopfert benutzt. Er sagte, sie haben ihr Blut tropfen lassen und sie beerdigt.
Sowohl im Fall Robert als auch im Fall Deborah wird deutlich, es handelt sich um ein Netz.
Also, es gab einen Tisch und da waren Kerzen und was für Kerzen? Kerzen eben. Und wo waren die? Waren sie überall? Also, da gab es diesen Tisch und rundherum waren die Kerzen aufgebaut. Waren Leute da? Meine Vergewaltiger. Du hast gesagt, Sie haben eines der zwei Kinder, die außerdem noch da waren, auf den Tisch gelegt? Haben Sie alle etwas gemacht oder war es nur einer? Es war nur einer. War es immer der gleiche? Kannst du sagen, was passiert ist, ohne Details zu nennen? Also, Sie haben das Kind zersägt. Sie haben ein Kind zersägt? Sie haben Teile von seinem Körper abgetrennt. Womit? Mit einem elektrischen Messer. Haben Sie das Kind lebend zersägt? Und dann haben Sie es getötet? Nein, Sie haben es leiden lassen.
He says, I am telling you the truth, which further underlines the teaching. Those who believe in me will do what I do. Yes, they will do even greater things because I am going to the Father. Now, what does that mean? Jesus is predicting that we will do the things that he did. What are the things that he did? Well, he did a lot of time, he spent a lot of time teaching, and so he predicts that we're going to be teaching disciples. But he also spent a lot of time healing and casting out demons. How many of you have cast out demons? Doesn't look like very many, huh? I've probably had about 2,000 experiences one-on-one, most of which were, they involved what we call the garbage, but they also involved the rats. The rats are the demons. And by the time you've done this quite a while, you begin to believe in it.